AstraZeneca's COVID vaccine prevents, on average, 70% of COVID cases, according to initial results of a large trial. That falls short of the bar set by Pfizer and Moderna, whose vaccines were found to be about 95% effective. Joining us now for more is our healthcare reporter, Suzi Ring. And Suzi, good morning. What I really want to understand is what we should be comparing with what. So do we compare this average 70% efficacy with the 95% from the other vaccines, the messenger RNA vaccines? Or do we disregard the regimens that were less effective and just compare the really good ones? Because one of these regimens was 90% effective. So can we be sure we're comparing apples and apples here?
That's a great question. I mean, I think this is the key thing here. This has been slightly less straightforward than the other two. We've got this average 70%, as you say, but we've got two dosing regimens which have come out with very different numbers. What Astra has said is that they're going to be focusing on the 90% efficacy, of course, because that's more effective, which is a regimen that's a half dose followed by a full dose rather than two full doses, which only produce a 62% efficacy rate. So what we're going to expect to see now is that they'll probably be pursuing an application on the 90% figure. However, there were less trial participants that had that slightly different dose that produced more effective results.
Yes, so 2,700 people, you write this morning, were in the regimen that showed 90% efficacy, while another regimen given to nearly 9,000 people showed just 62% efficacy. I suppose this could be important, though, when we start to take these trial results into the real world. And there's a world of difference, isn't there, between a trial and the real world? Because if you are, for example, a poorer nation and looking to maybe, and you can't do double dose, maybe you're looking for something that's only a single dose, I guess it's important that we get a range of efficacy rates from AstraZeneca and from other drug companies to try and inform decision-making.
Absolutely. And in some ways, this is actually a good result in the sense that if we can use less doses and have a more effective result, that means there's going to be more vaccine to go around. Obviously, we've talked lots about the fact that we've got 7 billion people to vaccinate, and it's a huge task, and not any one vaccine is going to be able to do that job. So if this results in actually a lower dose being used for a more effective result, that can only actually be ultimately a good thing if that's the final outcome, because it means we'll have more vaccines to go around.
And we've learnt more about how effective all of these vaccines are on older people, which is, of course, interesting, and indeed how easy they are to transport, because this is substantially easier to distribute because of the temperature required or not required to store the stuff.
Exactly. The key thing about the Astra-Oxford vaccine is that it's going to be really important for developing nations because it can be stored at fridge temperature, whereas the Moderna and Pfizer, while they do have some lifespan at lower temperatures, are ultimately need for on a long-term basis to be stored at freezing temperatures, which of course makes it a lot harder to transport and store, particularly in low and middle-income nations that don't necessarily have the same infrastructure as wealthier nations do. We also have, importantly, Astra has done a lot of deals with different manufacturers around the world, so there are a lot more kind of local manufacturing going on for that vaccine, which will be key in transporting, in terms of exporting. There'll be no concerns about it getting from A to B, because in each region we do have more manufacturing facilities making this vaccine, which is what makes it so key for developing nations and for this to be successful.